Very few English sources survive on the continent, but we do have quite a few continental sources here in England. And they're all
why was that?
diplomatic gifts.
Okay.
So they were gifts to Henry VIII, mostly because he was such a famous lover of music and a patron of music. So the Spies Choirbook essentially is a book that was gifted to Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. And it's all about childbearing. And it was done at a time when Catherine was trying to conceive a son. This is a time when young Henry VIII was a very different Henry VIII. He was thin, good-looking, tall, muscular, athletic, very musical. So it represents a period in his life that was highly cultured musically. And we recorded every motet in the book. It was a very expensive and lavish production from the workshop of Petrus Alamire, where we get our name. So anybody that was anybody in those days, whether you be a cardinal, a bishop, a prince, you want to have Petrus Alamire design a choir book for you. And there are a number of them that survive today. I mean, they're scattered all over the place, in the Vatican Library, in Germany, here in England.
Wow. And he was, you call it Spies Choirbook because he was a spy.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it was a good catchphrase because essentially for musicians, it was a great way to travel and see the world, but also a great way to transmit information without being suspected. Because musicians, by nature of who they were and what they did, they would go from court to court. So he wasn't the only spy at the time, but famously there are a number of letters that survive between him and Cardinal Wolsey and Henry VIII about his activities. And he was basically spying on the last of the Plantagenets, Richard de la Pole, and in turn, Pole hired him to spy on Henry. So we think he was actually a double agent. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's a series of letters that in themselves aren't that interesting apart from the spy aspect. But we do know that this choir book was one of the gifts given to Henry to sort of gain favour. And Henry didn't pay a penny for it. So Alamire was pretty upset. So when he went home, after being sent home for the last time, there's a letter that says, and of course I gave Henry a number of musical gifts, including a lavish choir book, and I haven't received a penny for any of it.
Oh, wow. So you actually have a reference to the choir book. That's amazing.
And this is it. I mean, so it was obviously done in the most lavish of ways with all the best inks, the best scribes, because Alamire would have had basically a workshop of people. So it's from the workshop of Petrus Alamire. We don't know if his actual hand is in the book, but certainly it is from his workshop.
Yeah. And that's interesting that Henry didn't pay anything for it because he was such a patron of the arts, right? Yeah. So, but I guess he wanted
I think he caught wind that Petrus Alamire was talking to La Pole, so Wolsey just cut him off. So basically that was it. So I'm not surprised he wasn't paid.
Right.
It's a good thing he just wasn't paid and not bought alive.
Yeah. For sure. He lucked out there. Interesting.